The Tatar peoples of the Eurasian steppe, one of the many Turkic groups that made their mark on medieval history through their militaristic vigor and cultural mysticism. During the 15th century, one of its subsets established a state in Crimea that would flourish well into the early modern period. Using its alliance with the Ottoman Empire, the Crimean Khanate would go on to become one of the strongest powers in Eastern Europe, competing with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Tsardom of Russia. Their slave raids across the Eurasian steppe and the Black Sea slave trade helped transform the Crimean Peninsula into an economically prosperous hub. From the Khanate's capital Bakhchisarai, the Crimean Khans would play a key role in the political emergence of the Zaporozhian Cossacks, and in the process help shape the history of Ukraine.
Kings and Generals is proud to announce that this is one of the many incredible channels that we've partnered up with for Project Ukraine. Project Ukraine is a playlist dedicated to telling the past of the Ukrainian people to aid them in the present. Your likes, shares and donations to the charity we're collaborating with will have a direct impact in aiding the most vulnerable citizens of Ukraine. We have partnered up with the Babyn Yar Holocaust Memorial Center in Kyiv, which was bombed by the Russian troops at the start of the invasion. Today, the foundation has transformed its projects, refocusing its resources and efforts on purchasing and delivering humanitarian aid to civilians and evacuating people from combat zones. In the first week of April, the center provided over 7,000 food baskets to patients and doctors at Kyiv hospitals, to bomb shelters in the Kyiv underground, as well as to people with disabilities and elderly people who cannot leave their homes. They also provided targeted assistance to 3,354 people, delivering specific medications, food and hygiene products on individual requests. We hope that viewers would consider donating to this noble cause and help with the humanitarian situation in Ukraine.
Since the days of the Hunnic Empire of Attila, various nomadic groups made their journeys west from Central Asia through the Eurasian steppes. From the 5th to the 13th century, the Avars, Pechenegs and Cumans all established their own states on the vast plains connecting Europe and Asia. The region served as a hub for multiple divergent cultures and religious groups such as Christians, Muslims, Slavic and Turkic pagans for centuries. This diversity also provided the foundation of the Crimean Tatars. Although their ethnogenesis is shrouded in mystery, the Tatars of Crimea are likely descendants of the various peoples that inhabited the region. Formed over centuries, their ethnic identity was underpinned by the Turkic language and eventually Islam. The Tatar people can be subdivided into three major groups: the Volga Tatars, the Siberian Tatars, and the Crimean Tatars. All three of them played a key role in the military of the Golden Horde, one of the successor states to the Mongol Empire, as experienced cavalry archers. However, by the 15th century, the Golden Horde would fracture from within and multiple breakaway states arose. Perhaps the most formidable of these was the Crimean Khanate, located in the Crimean Peninsula. The founder of the Khanate, Hajigirai, was a direct descendant of Jochi, son of Genghis Khan. In the political turmoil of the Golden Horde during the first half of the 15th century, Hajigirai was elected Khan by the local nobility in Crimea in 1441. During the years after his accession to the throne, he would further legitimize his rule in the region by defeating Mahmud bin Kuchak, Khan of the Golden Horde, in open battle, resulting in many Tatars enlisting themselves in the service of the now powerful Khan of Crimea. However, the Crimean Khanate's rise to power would be short-lived, as after Hajigirai's death in 1466, his sons would fight a civil war amongst themselves for the throne. The region was engulfed by warfare, and the Crimean Khanate was even shortly occupied by the Golden Horde. Seeing an opportunity to seize control of the Black Sea trade and turn the region into an Ottoman lake, the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II decided to intervene in the civil war. In 1475, Ottoman forces would conquer the Greek Principality of Theodoru and multiple Genoese colonies on the Crimean Peninsula. Mehmed II would then play kingmaker between the two sons of Hajigerai, and by 1478, after having spent a couple of years in captivity in Constantinople, the Ottomans installed Menli Giray I to the Crimean throne. The Khanate was now officially an Ottoman vassal state. However, unlike other Ottoman vassal states, the Crimean Khanate would enjoy a great degree of autonomy at home and great prestige in the Ottoman imperial court as allies to the Sultan rather than subjects. The Khans of Crimea did not pay any tribute to the Sublime Porte, and they continued to mint their own coins, key signs of sovereignty for a state. In the early days of the Ottomans, two sources of imperial legitimacy stood above the rest, one stemming from the Roman Empire and the other from Genghis Khan's Mongol Empire. Mehmed's conquest of Constantinople allowed him to inherit the former, adopting the title of Caesar-i Rum, Caesar of Rome, and now his alliance with the Crimean Khan gave him an entryway to the latter. The years between 1478 and 1515 would see the Crimean Tatars adapt to their new status in the region as one of the most powerful states on the Eurasian steppes. Major raids were conducted into the Polish Commonwealth, the Grand Duchy of Moscow, and the successor states of the Golden Horde, resulting in the growth of the Black Sea slave trade. Large sums of captured loot from towns and the enslavement of their peoples would become a major source of economic strength for the Crimean Khans all the way up to the 18th century. The Crimean economy also consisted of a prospering agricultural sector in the form of wheat production, and trade from the Silk Road, which would see the state construct massive building projects throughout the region, with the most famous one being the Khan's palace in the Crimean capital city of Bakhchisarai. In addition to regional raids, the Crimean Khans would also start to participate in Ottoman military campaigns in Europe, with their Tatar warbands famous for their renowned skills in horse archery. During this time, the Crimean Khans would also supply the Ottoman Sultan with a regular shipment of slaves as symbols of their alliance to the Sublime Porte. Their most significant gift being a Ruthenian slave girl named Alexandra Lisowska, but history would remember her as Hurrem Sultan, the legal wife of Suleiman the Magnificent. At the turn of the 16th century, the Crimean Khans would begin to gain influence within the Ottoman state. According to some traditional renditions of events, Hafsa Hatun, a daughter of Menli Giray I, became a wife of Shehzade Selim, a son of Sultan Bayezid II, and gave birth to his only son, Shehzade Suleiman, in 1494. In other historical accounts, another daughter of Menli Giray, Ayse Hatun, became a wife of Selim I and gave birth to his two daughters, while Hafsa Hatun was of slave origin. Whatever the case, during the pursuing Ottoman civil war of 1511 to 1513 between the sons of Bayezid II, Shehzade Selim, with the help of his Crimean backers, managed to defeat his brothers and father and gain the Ottoman throne in 1512 as Sultan Selim I. The House of Osman and the House of Giray were now connected by blood, only serving to raise the prestige of the latter. However, once again the tides of power for the Crimean Tatars would be short-lived, as the son and successor of Menli Giray, Mehmed Giray I, was murdered in 1523 before being able to unite the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan into his realm. A new round of Crimean civil wars would erupt, which would see the Ottomans stepping in 1524 and directly placing another son of Menli I, Saadet Giray I, onto the Crimean throne. From this point on, the Ottoman sultans would directly appoint rulers of the Crimean Khanate, and the future heirs of the country would get their education in Constantinople as political prisoners, as a way for the Ottoman state to get leverage against a potential disloyal Khan in the future. The Crimean Khanate would spend the rest of the 16th century raiding large parts of Eastern Europe and participating in multiple Ottoman military campaigns in Hungary and Moldavia. The same century would see the rise of Russia as a major regional power under Ivan the Terrible, which would see the fall of the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan to the Russian Tsar in the 1550s. However, these events would not deter Crimean raids into Russia. The height of the raids in Eastern Europe came in 1571, when the Crimean Khan, Devlet Giray I, stormed and burnt down Moscow, the capital of the Tsardom of Russia. Even though the Crimean Tatars would be repelled during the Battle of Molodi against Russia the next year, under the protection of the Ottoman Empire, the Khanate would retain its status as a regional power into the next century. Although having great successes in Eastern Europe, Ottoman-Crimean relations began to strain during the second half of the 16th century. Multiple Khans such as Sahib Giray I and Mehmet Giray II were overthrown by Ottoman officials for disobeying the orders of the Ottoman Sultan when they failed to send troops during Ottoman military campaigns. By the start of the 17th century, the Crimean Khan's imperial rank within the Sublime Porte had greatly diminished. These developments and the steady rise of the Cossacks of Ukraine and the Tsardom of Russia would prevent the Khanate from having the same successes it had in the previous centuries. Cities and villages in Ukraine and Russia gradually became well conditioned to Tatar raids of their lands, and started to deploy more complex defensive measures to repel the steadily outdated horse archers of the Khan. With Ottoman military campaigns in Europe stagnating, and Tatar raids into Eastern Europe becoming less profitable, Crimean Khans became more disposable for the Ottoman state. Between the years 1596 and 1699, the seat of power in Crimea would change up to 20 times, compared to the 11 from the previous century. After the Ottoman disaster at Vienna in 1683, and the dethronement of Selim Giray I by Ottoman officials after the battle, the Crimean Khanate for the first time in its history was put on the defensive as it fought a two-front war with Russia and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth during the Great Turkish War of 1683 to 1699. The war would prove the days of horse archery were over, and that the Crimean Khanate's sole guarantor of sovereignty would now be a stagnating Ottoman Empire. Even though the Khanate was able to secure its territories against the Poles and Russians during the war, the state would spend the majority of the 18th century on the defensive, whilst raids into Eastern Europe became ever so rare. It wasn't until the Russo-Turkish War of 1768 to 1774 that the defenses of the Crimean Khanate were breached by Russian forces. At the conclusion of the war, the Khanate would formally become a puppet state to the Russian Empire until it was annexed by Catherine the Great in 1783. The last Khan, Shahin Giray I, would live under house arrest in St. Petersburg, the capital of the Russian Empire, before being released to the Ottoman city of Edirne, where he would later be executed by Ottoman officials. After the Khanate's fall, and the policies of de-Tatarization and Russification by the Russian state in the region during the 19th century, multiple waves of Tatar emigration to the Ottoman Empire took place. It is estimated that between 1783 and the beginning of the 1900s, more than 800,000 Crimean Tatars left their ancestral homelands, with many finding homes along the Black Sea coast of Anatolia. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out the rest of the videos in Project Ukraine and the charity we've partnered up with that provides humanitarian relief to citizens affected by the conflict in Ukraine. The link to its website will be in the description to this video. As usual, a big thank you to my Patreons for continuing to support the channel. I can't forget to shout out Edgar from the Ottoman History Hub for his help on the script. If you guys are interested in Ottoman history, I know you'll love his channel. And last but not least, don't forget to check out my other channel, Street Food Bites, for content on delicious street foods from around the world. Until next time, peace!